Today we're going to be making our own hybrid pen blanks. Today I'll be using a two-part resin, part A and part B. And we'll also need some dye. I have red and blue. I like those colors. And then we have the mold that we'll pour that into, and then what we're going to cast inside the resin. I'm going to be using some old wood. Now this wood has been dried out, and then I took a heat gun to it to make sure it's completely dry. So whatever you're using, you want to make sure there's no moisture in it. So here I have 4 cups. That's for stirring it and mixing it together. Then I have the wood we'll be casting in the resin, some stirring sticks. This mold right here I actually made from some putty that's meant for resin. Then we'll need our dye. I have blue and red, and I have a digital scale, and then our resin. The resin, I don't know if I mentioned, it's a two-part, part A and part B resin, and you can pick this up at most hobby stores. So yeah, let's get to mixing this stuff together. Alright, so to start it off, I chose this wood, and I chose this one because I think it's going to be nice once we turn it all down and the resin goes into all these cracks and crevices and fills it all up. I think this is going to be a nice one. So next, my mold here takes 1.4 ounces of resin to fill it up, but once we put our wood in there, it's not going to be 1.4 ounces. But I'm still probably going to mix up at least an ounce or 1.2 ounces of resin to where I don't have to mix up any more, and I don't want it to be a problem. I mean, I'd rather have more than less. Here we have the red and blue. I'm going to kind of have a swirl pattern going, so once we pour that in there, we'll swirl it together. I'll mix 2 different times and then pour it in and swirl it together when it's in the mold. So I might use a toothpick to help with that. And the digital scale here I will use to weigh each thing out to make sure that it has to be equal parts of each thing, so I want it to be accurate. Alright, so I have the red and part A mixed up in here, and the blue and part A mixed up in here. Here's part B and part B. And the second we put these in here, and of course those, that one, game's on. We only have a certain amount of time before we can stir it up, get it all mixed in, pour it into our mold around our wood, and then stir it and get that swirl. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix these up and stir them together. Then we're going to take them and at an angle pour both these together, and then at the same time kind of stagger them, you know, then swirl in. And that way we can get the more consistent swirl pattern throughout the whole thing. So I'm going to go ahead and start mixing up these, and then we'll go ahead and start swirling both colors around the wood and into the mold. Alright, so the blue is mixed up and the red is mixed up. It is time to pour around our wood. We're going to have to figure out which direction I want the wood to be. So when I turn it down, I'll probably want this to be toward the outside. So logically, I'd probably put this to the bottom, but I'm probably going to stick it around this way to where when it gets turned back. Yep, that's what I'll do right there, just like that. And pour resin all the way around that. Okay. And this way, I might need to cut it down a little smaller, but I think it's fine. Alright, so there we go. Okay, I took a popsicle stick and cut the edges down, so it creates a point where I can get in here, work around, and get all these spots mixed up. So let's go ahead and start by pouring these two in, and then swirling around as we go. Alright, so I got this all got a swirl pattern. I think the blue's gonna overpower the red just a little bit more, but I still think that there's enough red in there to give it the look I'm going for. I don't want it to be too red, too blue. I want it to be kind of like a blue with like a lighter swirls inside of it. And yeah, so I have a little extra resin here. I'm gonna figure out something to do with that. But besides that, I might pour a little more down in here in a little while, because I don't want this thing to I wanted to get the resin all into all those cracks and crevices, so I might pour a little down on top if I see that settling in. And yeah, to get most of the air bubbles out, you can tap them, or you can take a heat gun to it and just very lightly blow, and that will also get all the air bubbles out. So I'm going to do that, and then we're going to set this up, and the bottle says it takes 24 to 48 hours for this thing to fully cure, so it'll be a little while before we can get back to it. But yeah, so great. Alright, so these blanks that we made around with the resin have gotten hardened up, and they are really hard. I checked all the edges and made sure that these are really set up, and I think these have turned out successful. And I went ahead and prepped these by cutting them down, drilling a hole. I'm going to be using these to make a Apprentice Slimline kit, which is a 7mm drill bit. And so I did that, and then glued in the brass tubes. Before I glued the brass tubes, I coated the edges with some thick CA glue to let that CA glue leak down to any of the sides that might have had any holes in it that the resin did not fill up. And then after that, I drilled the hole back out again, and then glued in the brass tubes. So yeah, let's go ahead and mount this onto a lathe, and then I'm going to turn these down. Alright, so I mounted this on my lathe here, and I put the bushings on. But what I forgot to actually mention earlier, actually I did mention it, but I mentioned it wrong. I am making the Apprentice Roadster pen kit, and not the Apprentice, but it still is a 7mm hole. But different bushings though. And so I mounted that onto my lathe and looked at the diagram for the bushings, and now it is ready to turn these down. I'm going to be using roughing gouge to get these and twirl around, and then I'll start working from the edges from there and around the bushings. And I'll leave it at like paper thickness above from the bushings, and then we'll sand that part down. Alright, so let's turn this thing down. Alright, so I got this thing almost round, and I love the way the wood is inside of here. It looks pretty cool. I have one spot here that I could tell that the resin didn't get into, so that might be a problem because of how low it is, but I might be able to work around it too. And might be able to take some of these shavings and put some CA glue in there if it does become a problem, and then sand it out. But besides that, I'm going to continue and keep trying to bring these down to the bushings, and then I'll go from there. Alright, so after looking at it, I can definitely tell that I will have to add some shavings into this with some CA glue, but first I want to clean out that hole a little bit. I'll probably be using a thin for this. Alright, so I chiseled all this thing down to where I think it will look nice, and now it's just left for me to sand. And it's going to be a lot of sanding, I'll tell you what. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to go back and forth this way, but also, of course, when delay spinning, I mean, duh. But I'm also going to go back and forth this way and make sure that I get this whole thing nice and smooth. And then, and once I do that, then we'll come back and apply our CA glue finish. But even then, I want to make sure there's no scratches in here whatsoever. So I'll never keep going back this way. And I may not show all that on camera, so that will take quite a while. But I will show you what it looks like after we get finished sanding and a little bit of the sanding. So yeah, let's continue. Alright, so I took the sandpaper and went through all the grits, and then I sanded it all up to this point here. And as you can see, why it's shiny is because I took some mineral spirits and wiped that on there. So, like, you can see it looks like this. So, I think this is going to be a gorgeous pen if it works. And I think we'll get it to there. You see that spot we filled in there? And I'm not that pleased with it, but it actually kind of gives a nice little clash. I mean, it would be better if it was solid like it would be blue there, but I can't complain. So I'm gonna go ahead and start to apply the finish on here. So I want to make sure that all these scratches are gone to where then I can apply my finish. And then after we apply our finish, I'm going to be using micro mesh. And when I'm using micro mesh, I'm going to use water with this because I don't want it to scratch the surface whatsoever. And then so I'm hoping the CA glue will not have any reaction to this type of wood or whatsoever, because this was just some wood I found laying around, and then made sure it was dry and all that. So yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and start applying the CA glue finish. So this looks really pretty right now. I applied at least 11 coats of thin CA glue, and there's a little, you can see a few scratches in here, but I think once I use the micro mesh and shine it up, they'll be hardly noticeable. I love the red and the other spots in here that barely shine through, but that did leak down top of the wood and kind of discolored it. That turned out better than I expected. I'm kind of afraid to use the micro mesh with water right now because sometimes it does have a reaction to it. So I'm deciphering whether to do that or not. I'm still going to probably, yes, I'm going to do it. I'm going to use the micro mesh with water and go ahead and starts at 1200 and goes to 12,000 grit, and then we will see what it looks like after I get finished with that. So yeah, so let's go ahead and start using the micro mesh. I still don't like that little fill-in spot. I should have used just blue there, but for now, I mean, yeah, I might go back and fix it later, but I don't even think there's a way to do that. There might be, but I'm not gonna worry about it. It is how it is, and yeah, besides that, it's a gorgeous pen, and it's not a pen yet. It's just the wood. So let's go ahead and press this together and make it a pen. So yeah, let's do that. Alright, so now that I got this into light, this pen is beautiful. Not because I made it, because of the wood and the resin mixed into the wood, and the finish turned out nice. Oh man, I mean, this thing, I mean, I'm gonna get up closer in a minute. I just wanted to talk about it for a second. Wow. And I did mess up here on the bushing just a little. It turned a little high. I was a little afraid of taking that resin down too low, so I should check that. Again, but here, and up there is nice, and it has a nice shine to it. So let me get it closer and stop yapping, and y'all can get a better look at this. Or this week I'm going to be having a drawing, and to get into that contest, you have to get 5 of your friends to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and then I'll put your name inside of it, and then whoever name I draw will be receiving a free pen. You won't be able to pick the wood, but I'll make sure it's something pretty. And it'll be from AWI Woodworking, and you will get a free pen, and we'll work out details later. But get 5 of your friends to subscribe, and in 2 weeks I'll be drawing that person's name. So make sure you're in that drawing. Thank y'all for watching this video. Do not forget to subscribe to my channel, like it, and I will see you in the next one.